Hey, so this is just going to be a video about the recent Trump assassination attempt and just some of my thoughts on it. Like everybody, that kind of captivated me this weekend. Given that events like this don't happen very often, and a lot of people thought something like this could happen again. So let's get into it. Um, Before I reference this story, before I talk too much about what happened with Trump, I wanted to say one time, one thing that, this incident got me thinking of is something that happened years ago with me. Um, Trump was actually flying into Indianapolis and he flew right into the airport where I would do my runs, Indianapolis International Airport. And the part of the airport I would do my runs on, there was like an abandoned lot that was right near where Trump's plane touched down, and that's where I would park my car. And some of the cars that had been chased off from before there from people that were trying to film Trump by like the local law enforcement, they had all been cleared out by the time I got there. But since I wasn't at my car, I was running alongside the road. They didn't clear me out just yet. And so I actually ended up then being pretty close to the time where Trump's plane touched down. But then the Secret Service saw me and immediately wheeled over in this big old black SUV. And a guy rolls down the window, and I don't know how to describe the look on his face, but I guess it was just this kind of like he just said, "Hey, you can't park here, leave." And it was this kind of like, "I'm gonna kill you." I don't know. I mean, he was not being rude or anything, but it was just this kind of frightening look, like just I don't know. Instinctively, I just knew to get the heck out of there as quick as I could. Like I just could tell I was gonna get shot or something if I didn't, and or probably arrested. But anyways, yeah, I wheeled out of there, and you know. I don't know. Obviously, I didn't have a gun and I wasn't trying to assassinate anybody. And I don't think they would have shot me on sight like they did the Trump assassin in this situation. But seeing how quickly they decimated Thomas Matthew Crooks, Trump's would-be assassin, this last Saturday, that confirmed with me I probably made the right decision there. And now kind of getting, of course, to the Trump assassination with that kind of awkward lead-in. This was a pretty interesting event that happened. Of course, with modern American politics, everybody is trying to make this, some big deal about how, this is a conspiracy of the left. Some left people are saying since he was a registered Republican, this is a conspiracy of the right. And as usual, American politics is just incredibly divided and polarized right now. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be headed in a good way one way or the other, no matter which party leads. I think in the long run, there's going to be some kind of restructuring of our government, but I don't want this to be a super down, depressing video, so I'll stay away from that for now, But anyways, yeah, it was an interesting event, and in some ways it did unite some people. We kind of, there was a lot of people, both political leaders on both sides of the aisle condemned it, and, didn't try to say that Trump deserved to be shot or anything. I mean, obviously, I don't think this was a positive event, what happened here. And I mean, for those of you that don't know the basic details of it, I'm sure you all do, but just to go over it, Trump was nearly assassinated by Thomas Matthew Crooks, a 20-year-old from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, just near Pittsburgh. He shot Trump in the right ear, I think it was. I know it was one of his ears, and he just barely missed his head. Then truck ducked, and, Secret Service, covered him, and then they rushed him out. Trump wasn't seriously hurt, but his ear was wounded a little bit, and he was bleeding, and an inch or two more, and he would have been dead. And of course, what has everybody really fascinated about this is that this guy was able to get on a building only 450 feet, at least I believe it was 450 feet away from where Trump was speaking, and take shots at him that could have fatally killed him. Or that's a dumb way to put it, but I was about to say mortally wounded, but you get it, it could have killed him. Yeah, so that's definitely interesting. I think if I had to take a guess as to how that happened, I think just somebody in local law enforcement or Secret Service completely dropped the ball and probably is going to lose their job, and maybe deservedly so after this. But there is a little bit of room for wondering if there was something else going on here. Because, I mean, it seems incredibly obvious that a building 450 feet away that is elevated enough that a person could pop shots off at Trump and nearly hit him in the head would have to be secured better. So, I mean, and I don't mean to talk about things that I don't know anything about, because I've never fired a gun before, and I'm definitely not in security. But it seems really hard to believe that that wouldn't be something that would be secured because they said it was outside of the security parameter. And kind of even related to my one experience with the Secret Service that I had years ago, I can assure you that spot where I was parked was more than 450 feet away from where Air Force One touched down and where Trump, got off the plane. It was a minimum of like a few thousand feet away, and if even maybe further, I don't know. And I don't know if you could shoot someone from there, or you probably could with the right weapon. But whatever the case is, the Secret Service definitely didn't tolerate me being anywhere near there that one time I was there. And like you mentioned, I just got out of there before things got ugly. But anyways, I do think there is some room for speculation on maybe something that this guy may have been somehow aided a little bit by somebody, and I don't know who. Maybe somebody in the inside of the Secret Service, local security, something. He was obviously himself just a crazy loon. Looking at the guy and reading about his life history, he was, well, to be honest, some people describe him literally as how some people would describe me in high school: a quiet loner, relatively smart. Though he didn't go to college, he was working as a dietary aide in a local nursing home, if that's the correct term. To be blunt, he was smart, but I think people are kind of overblowing like that he's this genius or whatever. He was an intelligent guy, but to be honest, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like John Hinckley Jr., who of course tried to assassinate Reagan. John Hinckley was relatively intelligent. He was a little bit crazy, but he was intelligent. He was shooting Reagan because he thought that would make him, I'm forgetting the actress's name, I'm sorry. He thought that would make her want to date him. I'm spacing out on the actress's name that he had a crush on. I heard it earlier today, now it's out on the tip of my tongue, but I forgot. Anyways, I want to say Pamela Anderson, but I know that's not correct. It's not Pamela Anderson, but it just, for some reason, I can't remember the name of the person. But anyways, he wanted to, and obviously that was crazy, but he was an intelligent person. They did IQ tests on him, and he was very high on the IQ. He did very well on his IQ tests. I don't know much about John Wilkes Booth. There's a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding him, of course. But honestly, I think this guy operated mostly alone. I don't know. It's just, if he had an organization backing him, he doesn't even just seem like a likely person to me. A random 20-year-old who only lived like an hour or so away in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, that just would be too convenient that he would already just be there. It's much more likely that this guy was a random lone nut who just, decided he wanted to shoot the president for some reason and, just acted on that impulse. That's really in some ways the way it was with both John Hinckley and with Lee Harvey Oswald. And it's so interesting that these lone wolves have more success than like major terrorist organizations and other organized radical groups that do want to assassinate the president, that have millions of dollars and trained former military personnel backing them, and yet they never succeed, but these random lone wolves do. The only guess I would have, and this is just a guess, I might be totally wrong, is that they're off the radar of, like the FBI, the CIA, and and the Secret Service, all these other organizations that track them. So that way, that means they can just catch them totally by surprise. And I'm guessing that's the only advantage they have. A lot of people thought this kind of thing couldn't occur anymore, and I don't know if I was certain that it couldn't, but I didn't think it would have to be very likely to happen. But, it is very interesting, and I'm glad that most people are denouncing it as a negative thing, because it definitely would not have been good if Trump had been killed. And this is coming from someone with mixed political views. On social issues, I lean left. On fiscal issues, I lean right. And on foreign policy issues, I'm kind of in the middle. But if Trump had been killed, that would whip some of his really passionate MAGA supporters into a foaming frenzy. And they would be out rioting, and we'd see probably something like January 6th all over again, So it's very good that didn't happen. And also that would, of course, and to the conservatives, to show that I'm not just trying to be biased here, if Trump had shot, the election would be over and Biden would win, because whoever the Republicans would put in his place would not even come close. And contrary to popular belief, Biden stands a much better chance of re-election than some people think. Just despite his terrible debate performance, he still is an incumbent president, and he still has a lot of advantages. The economy is going okay, relative stability in the country. Though this will definitely play into Trump's hand, and that'll be another thing now everybody's guessing is how it will affect the election. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this unique event affects the modern political environment in America, considering how bad on the whole things really are, with American politics these days. I mean, I won't lie, sorry, I'm going to go just a minor, quick political rant here, but I am really disgusted in many ways with modern American politics. I mean, there are definitely some politicians I dislike more than others, but I mean, like with Trump selecting J.D. Vance as his VP, of course I was in Ohio for a while and I saw some of J.D. Vance's stupid commercials. I can't stand that guy, I mean, partially because there's certain aspects of his life that I actually find curious, because he graduated from Ohio State with a bachelor's in philosophy and political science, summa cum laude. And so he's obviously got a brain to him. I mean, obviously I have an interest in both political science and philosophy and history. And then he went to law school at Yale, I think, and he was in venture capital. And for those of you that don't know, as somebody who's a finance major who works in banking, it is very hard to get into some of those upper tiers of finance. I had a little bit of a youthful ambition of it when I was, first starting out, and I failed miserably on the one attempt I made. And I learned after that I was never going to be even close to that level, and I'll be lucky just to do, be above average, and that's normal, of course. But I mean, it's not, I know people hate like Wall Street and they hate things like that. They think it's all just a big corrupt scandal, and there is corrupt aspects to it. In venture capital, there's definitely some bad people in that too. But trust me, it is insanely hard to get into those upper tiers of that. And so I have to respect the fact that he could actually be a successful venture capitalist. But of course, that's what really makes me dislike him even more, is that he's obviously got a brain to him. And yet then you look at the absolutely idiotic positions J.D. Vance puts up. And I don't mean this as like a Democrat going against Republicans or a Republican going against Democrats or whatever. I mean, J.D. Vance's positions are uniquely just tailored to basically just support whatever the worst aspects of certain elements of the Republican Party. Because there's good and bad aspects to both the Republican and Democrats. With the Democrats, I don't know, some social issues I think are the good things. On the bad side, I think they politicize some issues that shouldn't be politicized, like race, and they have some extremist socialist elements. But on the Republican side, some of the darkest elements there is they appeal to just flat out regressive sometimes. And J.D. Vance, for one, he's an election denier, like a lot of Republicans. He denies the 2020 election results, which is very worrisome and contributes to the modern political divide. And also, reading some of his positions, he used to be a major Trump hater. In fact, he once called Trump America's Hitler. And of course, this was what he said before Trump was winning elections. This is what he said back in 2017, which of course shows that he's really just out for J.D. Vance, and that's who he's looking out for as number one. Because then he did a complete 180 after Trump started winning and started basically towing the line for every position that Trump's put out there. And I look at a lot of his positions, and they're just ones that in all ways bother me. The only one he shows some sense on is the Iraq War, but that would make sense because he's an Iraq War veteran, and he at least has the sense to condemn, some of the aspects of that war that were not very good. But even some of the things he says on that are just so weird. Like he says that one of the negatives of the Iraq War is that a lot of the Christians of Iraq fled the country, and that it reduced the Christian population in Iraq. And I look at that and my jaw drops thinking, out of all the things that went wrong with the Iraq War, with the 500,000 people that were killed, the rise of ISIS, the Civil War, many other geopolitical implications, you're really going to sit around and pander to America's religious community by saying, oh, but it also reduced the Christian population in an almost entirely Muslim country. I mean, what the F? I mean, WTF, good Lord. I don't mean to get, be on a big nasty political rant here, and I don't mean to be, because politics I know sucks, and for those of you that are Republicans, I don't mean to be, disparaging. I really know, I grew up mostly around Republicans, and a lot of them have more reasonable beliefs than others, and there are many Democrats who I don't get along with either. But I mean, this kind of stuff just, it truly disturbs me seeing people like this rise to these levels of power, you know. And of course, he supports just about and you know, some of his other positions, you know, you can tell they're as bigoted as he wants them, as far and back regressive as he can make them without actually going over the line, you know. And I know he can't on some level actually believe what he says, you know, like saying that as far as gay marriage goes, he's basically against any kind of privileges for gay couples, but he doesn't want to flat out, you know, repeal gay marriage laws and legalization of gay marriage because that would be breaking up families or blah, blah, blah. You know, some political BS like that, which is clearly showing that he basically wants to appeal to aggressives, though he's smart enough to know that right now he couldn't really go all the way. You know, it would be probably not politically advantageous for him to just be trying to repeal gay marriage laws. So he's really just kind of going as far back as he can and towing the line to appeal to the regressives without actually going too far that he maybe damages himself. But I know I'm going. You probably wonder why I hate JD Vance, but I don't know. I never liked the guy when I saw his commercials in Ohio, and the more I learned about him, the more he really just disgusts me. I mean, really, he disgusts me a lot more than Trump, because Trump's just a wild guy. He's all over the place. He says whatever he wants. He does whatever he wants. And right now, he's a Republican conservative, but if the Democrats, if they had let him run on their ticket, he may have run as a Democrat, and then he'd probably support a lot of their positions. Trump does whatever Trump wants to do, you know. And I don't like him, but I don't know. But, you know, I was hoping, you know, J.D. Vance, people talk about him representing the next generation of conservatives. And if that's the case, that is very disturbing. Seeing an intelligent and successful person such as himself supporting some of the most regressive positions in this country and pretty much just doing so for his own political gain at all costs, you know. And you know, it really worries me because I still see a lot of that stuff on the Democratic side too, just supporting, you know, stupid populist rhetoric. And I don't know. I mean, I think in general the world and America is headed in the right direction. I think it's kind of a 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards thing. But unfortunately, right now, I just don't fully understand the direction our modern political system is going, you know. So I don't know. I know I've just been sitting here ranting like just. And in a depressing rant, I don't mean it to be that way. I do think it'll all be fine. I don't think there's going to be some civil war or anything here in the U.S. And you know, we're all very lucky Trump did not get assassinated. That would have been very bad. And hopefully this will, I've noticed a lot of things about this, you know, helping unite the country, and hopefully it'll continue to do so. And hopefully, in the long run, our political system, whatever changes it undergoes, will be nonviolent and will be for the benefit of the U.S. and for all the countries we deal with. So, you know, I don't know. Hopefully just trying to end it on a good note or whatever. So, thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye.